to Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. I'm Scott.
I'm Nelle.
And today we're going to talk about the Millenium series by Stieg Larsson. So the Millenium series is 3 books by Stieg Larsson. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Girl Who Played with Fire, and The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest. There's actually now 6 books in this series. Stieg Larsson died halfway through the 3rd book, and the Larsson estate has employed another a journalist, actually, which is quite appropriate for the book, to continue writing the story. So I get
the impression it was very well planned and that it's quite true to his original schemings, but they don't count. So the first 3 books is what we're talking about, partly because the rest were written by someone else, and partly because that's all I've read.
It's all I've read too. I do plan to read The Girl in the Spider's Web this year.
I think I'm done.
You think you're done?
Yeah.
Okay, so The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, or rather the Millennium series, really focuses on 2 characters, Mikhail Blomquist and Elizabeth Salander. So Mikhail Blomquist is a journalist. He's in his early 40s and he owns owns a magazine called Millennium.
Hence the Millennium series.
Hence the Millennium
Apparently
series.
also his penis is made of chocolate or something, because every woman on the planet just wants to sex him.
Isn't it? He just...
Oh my god, I'm so glad I've never met him, because I would just have to throw myself at him.
He just...
It's it. Anyway.
Elizabeth Salander is clearly the character that everybody likes in this book. She is...
Well, it's not Mikhail. I mean, he's not... He's not loathsome.
All the characters in the book like Mikhail. So.
Yeah, that's it. He's a bit bland.
Elizabeth is autistic. She's in her...
yeah.
Well...
There's the implication towards the end of the 3rd book that she may be autistic, but it's never actually full-blown stated. I feel like it's an afterthought that has been thrown in by the author. I feel like someone read the first draft of the first book and goes, "Oh, is she autistic?" And then he's gone, "Yes, I'm going to make her autistic."
He flat out calls her, says she has Asperger's syndrome, which I know is not a thing anymore, but when Stieg Larsson was writing it, it was...
Yeah, he does, but not until very late in the 3rd book.
Okay. Well, yeah, she's this girl. She thinks about the world a little bit differently to other characters. She is this really angry character, I think, is the way...
Yeah, traumatized maybe is the word I would choose. But definitely angry, isolated, untrusting.
And smart and resourceful and happy to let her morals slide in certain
No,
situations.
I don't think she ever leaves her own code. I just don't think she automatically accepts the moral code of society.
Yeah.
She definitely does things that most people would consider to be amoral or immoral.
So you get a lot more Mikhail in this book than you do Elizabeth, and that's kind of cool because you're always gasping for the Elizabeth chapters. Because
I feel like he doses her out like she's the suspense. You're waiting for her next chapter.
She's the icing on the cake. You know you like that, but if you put too much icing on it, it's too sweet and it ruins it.
Yeah. The books deal with a lot of prostitution and trafficking as sort of core themes and issues, and they've definitely been heralded as sort of a feminist series, and I don't actually think I agree with that. I think they're not at all feminist.
I think that they are feminist, but I am a much worse feminist than you, so...
I think the more I think about it, the less feminist they seem, and I guess for me, there's real problematic issues around the description of Lisbeth Salander as autistic, that's a bit problematic for me, but also the whole book is through the male gaze. Like, it is, the women are so sexualized, and this Mikhail character sleeps with everything that moves, and it's none of it's on his, like, he doesn't bust a move, it's never him, just women are throwing themselves at him willy-nilly, and it just all a little bit reads like a schoolboy fantasy at times. But that doesn't completely destroy it. There is a story and a mystery in each novel, and that is interesting to follow.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a thriller. It's one of, like, it's a stereotype. It's almost a James Bond-esque thing. There's a clear bad guy. You've got to figure out who it is. You've got to get the bad guy. There's lots of sex. There's lots of things to distract you and all of that. But then he has got this narrative of it. I think the Swedish title of the first book is Men Who Hate Women, and it's definitely, I think it more than being I think it might be more of an anti-male book than a feminist book, because he definitely portrays some men as really horrible.
I think there's some really
people.
Interesting discussion about how the hatred of women and misogyny in general creates violence. And not necessarily entirely against women, but violence in general. And I think that given the fact that he's from Sweden and that they've employed the Nordic model, and they've shown in their country at least that by reducing the demand for prostitution, there's some correlation between their domestic violence, improvement in their domestic violence statistics and all that sort of stuff. So the idea that this hatred and idea of ownership of women is actually core to violence in society in general is quite thick in that first book, and I think that is interesting and totally a feminist idea. But I think the books are written by a man.
Well, yeah, I think, look, it's certainly the second and third book are all about trafficking and that side of things, and trying to bust some trafficking ring is part of the third book.
You've also got running parallel to sort of the main mystery, the mystery of Lisbeth herself, and like she's actually really protective of her personal stories and her identity throughout all of the books, and sort of the slow uncovering of her history is like the parallel storyline to...
She's really guarded as a character, and he writes the information of her he guards as well.
Yeah, exactly. So you're actually, as if you were interacting with her, just sort of drip fed this information about her as a character, and that is the more intriguing mystery for me than even the let's see who these traffickers are, and they do become sort of entwined in the end, and that's satisfying. It's very satisfying.
For me, these books, they progressively get worse as the series goes on. A little bit, the novelty wears off, but I actually really do think that they get worse.
I think he started with a really strong idea, and instead of developing it further, he's rested on a formula. I think that what could have been two very engaging characters become really stock standard stereotypes. By the end of the third book, Mikhail is he's just your leading man who sleeps with all the ladies who are attractive to him, or and all the women are viewed through a sexual. There's no ugly women, there's no fat women, there's they're all hot and young, and
they're not all young,
and even the old ones are like surprisingly hot, like they're youthful in their enthusiasm for Mikhail's penis.
He does have a chocolate dick, but
it does get a bit ridiculous, and conversely, not conversely, also Lisbeth she becomes this bisexual sex symbol that's like the opposite of the manic pixie dream girl. Like she's
She gets breast implants during the second novel.
She sort of becomes this weird independent woman fantasy that is super sexualized, but clearly with men in mind. And she's strong and tough and violent, and all of those things just become a bit cartoony, I guess.
Yeah. I think there you start to look at it and you start to see flaws the more that it goes on. The Zala character I feels really forced in, and the issues with that. The ending of the second book, it's just such a coincidence. It doesn't, she doesn't get out of the situation by being cool. She gets out of it by being lucky.
I think, I found that frustrating because she rescued him in the first book, and then sort of the score is evened in the second book, and that's not true to character to me. It was an enjoyable
If Mikhail
read.
If Mikhail was really self-conscious about who he was and be like, I like working with you, Elizabeth, but you're so much cooler than me, then he rescuing her would have been great. But Mikhail is confident and assertive, and he wants to be the leader of the two of them, and he kind of...
He does just assume that role, and he's quite paternalistic with her, even though they at one point have a sexual relationship. And
Spoiler alert.
Oh, sorry. I did enjoy reading the Millennium Trilogy. I have a lot of negative things to say about a trilogy that I actually really thoroughly enjoyed reading, but it was very much a recreational read for me. It wasn't super intellectual, and a lot of it was very made for TV, I guess.
It's easy to nitpick and criticise the book, but ultimately it's bloody good. Like...
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it as a basic mystery. I don't often consume thrillers, and it did make me want to consume more thrillers. Maybe I'll find better quality ones, and in 12 months I'll be like, that Millennium Trilogy was absolute trash. Or maybe I'll find that this is what thrillers are and accept this level of...
Yeah, well, for me it was a great intro to Nordic Noir. I certainly want to read more Nordic Noir because of this book. Nordic Noir is a subset of it's sort of a dark Norwegian, not Norwegian, but a dark sort of crime novel set in Scandinavia essentially, and I quite enjoyed that as an introduction. So it's definitely a little bit of a gateway to that genre for me.
I also found I've had difficulty fitting reading into my life in recent years, and because this was so easy to read, it really did help get back into that routine of reading every day, especially because there was a bit of length to it.
Yeah, they're thick but quick. You can get lost. It's the right length for a book because you can really get lost in it, but it's not like one of those really thick novels that you have to commit to either.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could probably go into a lot more depth. We could discuss the Nordic model more. That is a divisive topic that we would probably enjoy doing a whole video on. We could discuss...
I would definitely be interested if you guys have any opinions on the Millennium Trilogy or any other books that sort of delve into prostitution, sex trafficking, the Nordic model.
Give us recommendations.
If you've got any titles that explore
more.
any of those things, we would be super interested in reading and then probably having a bigger chat about that theme from more than one author's viewpoint, I think. They're more powerful than a homemade tattoo machine.